Hare Krishna. Somebody wants to lead the invocation prayers, please.
Yes, Prabhuji, I do.
Yeah.
Om Anyana Tirumandasya Jnananjala Salakaya Satguru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishyam Stapinam Yenabhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadadish Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavapcha Sri Rupam Sagratatam Saragana Raguna Tiritam Tam Sadivam Sri Sadvaidam Savatutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Saragana Lalita Sri Vaishnavam Divancha He Karuna He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Napustude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudevi Pranamami Haripriya Panchakalpataru Prancha Kripa Sindhu Biye Evacha Paridhanam Bhavaneshu Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today we will cover Canto 3, Chapter 3, verses 16 to 28. We'll complete Chapter 3 and we will start Canto 3, Chapter 4 with the aim to complete verses 1 to 13. Before that, you all please explain one or more points and ask one or more questions.
Hare Krishna. There were two questions you have asked homework. What does the Lord fulfilled the request of Satyabhama indicate? The Lord is independent, is the owner of everything. Despite that, Indra ignored and wrongly perceived that Lord is infect. Satyabhama is one of the wives among innumerable wives. What attracted the Lord is not the beauty of her, but her unadulterated devotional service. Thus, Lord reciprocated the unalloyed devotion of his devotee. Prabhuji, if you like, I will cover the second one or somebody can cover.
Okay, very good point that Lord is attracted by the devotional attitude, devotional activities of Satyabhama and not by her beauty. Okay, very good. Somebody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Right.
I can try to answer the second question. So explain why Lord referred to Yadus as an more unbearable burden. So all the Yadus were incarnations of different demigods, and they also were to disappear from the surface of the earth along with the Lord. So when he means unbearable burden, it doesn't mean, it refers to the burden of separation, Prabhu.
Okay, very good. So it's more unbearable burden is referring to burden of separation. So just want to clarify that Yadus are not incarnations of demigods. Yadus themselves are eternal associates of Krishna, and when they had appeared on earth, simultaneously in one body, there were two personalities. One was the Yadus who are eternal associates, and the other was demigods. So Yadus are not incarnations of demigods. It's just that in the body, there were two personalities in them. One was Yadus, one was demigods.
Prabhuji, I would like to add some more in that.
Yeah.
Material creation is meant for fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Earth is overburdened due to dharma glani, or irregular discharge of Lord's desire. Lord appears on earth to curb increase in miscreants and not in increase in population. Lord, members of Yadu dynasty or his family, they were expansion of himself by plenary expansions. Source of great pleasure for earth, Lord has in mind the imminent disappearance from earth. He was referring to the burden of this separation. Burden of the beast is unbearable, but burden of love is a pleasure to the Lord. It is like Arjuna was made to be illusioned by family affliction. Burden of separation is heavier than burden of love. Lord creates by his will the quarrel and intoxication to disappear to disappear. After his disappearance, this will take place. Hare Krishna.
Okay, very good points. Anybody has any questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I was just, from the purport, I got the answer. In the purport, it is written that all members of family of Lord Krishna were incarnations of demigods and they disappear from the surface along with the Lord.
Yeah, so I describe what that actually means, what acharyas have described, that that within the body, there were two personalities. And when the fight happened, and we'll cover this, it's in the verses that we'll cover today, that when the fight happened between the Yadus, it's only the demigod portion of the Yadus that went to Prabhashetra where the fight happened. The Yadus never went, meaning the eternal associates of the Lord, they never went to Prabhashetra to begin with. The eternal associates stayed back in Dwarka, and from Dwarka itself, they went back to Goloka Vrindavan. And it's the demigod portion that went to Prabhashetra to fight, as that seemingly fight. And it's a more discussion in today's discussions as well, that the demigod fought among themselves, meaning the demigod portions within the Yadu. And that's what is referring to, that there are incarnations of demigods within the Yadu's body as well. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, rest of you, questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, what I am thinking, because the devotees are fully surrendered to Krishna, so Krishna, they are the instrumental for Krishna to do his pastimes.
Okay, very good. So we'll discuss today more on this, that devotees help Krishna with the pastime, including this fighting is actually a pastime. And the word used instead of pastime, it's actually used as magical performance. We'll discuss all that today. Okay, very good. Somebody else? Something else?
Prabhuji, would you like to little elaborate for better understanding? Dharma glani, burden due to dharma glani, means dharma is not followed, or?
Yeah, dharma glani means dharma is not followed. So it's there in 4.7 and 4.8, that why Krishna appears and how Krishna appears. That if Krishna appears in his original body, and why he appears, The main purpose is to reciprocate with his devotees, and the side byproduct is to also re-establish religious principles by removing the demons who have become burden on earth because of their intoxication with high education, with opulences, and with so many followers. So that's the dharma glani. It comes directly from the word dharma glani is directly from Bhagavad Gita 4.7 and 4.8. Second lines, first and second line says yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharat. That glani, that's what it's saying, dharma glani. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Somebody else? Any questions, comments? Okay, so we'll continue with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3, verse 16 onwards. And so just to lay the context of where we are in our discussion, that so far Uddhava has discussed the Vraja pastimes and some seemingly contradictory activities of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada refutes all those seeming contradictions in the various purports. We have discussed Krishna's education and marriage in the first few verses of chapter 3. And then we discussed the killing of demons at Kurukshetra war. We also discussed that Krishna did not kill Jarasandha for 17 times because Jarasandha kept bringing more demons to fight. And Krishna and Balram sitting at one place, they're saying, okay, but Jarasandha is bringing these demons in wholesale and we are just sitting at one place and killing all of them, because Krishna's purpose of removing burden on earth is being taken care by Jarasandha bringing more and more demons again and again. Therefore, Krishna did not kill Jarasandha for 17 times. We discussed the burden of beasts referring to demons, and the Yadus as more unbearable burden refers to the burden of love due to separation. The rest of the verses for chapter 3, which we'll cover today, are pretty straightforward. So verses 16 to 23 is part 3. Title is Krishna in Dwarka. Here, Krishna's some important pastimes at Dwarka are discussed. Is our dear Aditi able to read verse 16, 17 translation, or Kalyani or Sridhar Prabhu? Sridhar Prabhu's audio is not connected. Maybe Shalini or Gopal Krishna can please message him to connect his audio. In the meantime, Shalini, if you want to read 16, 17 translation.
Hare Krishna, text 16. Lord Shri Krishna, thus thinking to himself, established Maharaja Yudhishthira in the position of supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of piety. Prabhu, this is piety?
Yeah, piety.
Okay. Text 17. The embryo of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burnt by the weapon of the son of Drona, but later he was again protected by the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna made Yudhishthira as king. Still, Krishna acted as subordinate. Krishna is also under Yudhishthira's regime. Therefore, Krishna went and submitted his taxes like everybody else. So we have discussed this when we were discussing Canto 1 about Parikshit Maharaj, which is described here in verse number 17 purport. So when we were discussing back in Canto 1, we had referenced this and read this. Here in verse number 17 purport is described that actually Parikshit Maharaj's body was burned in the womb. And Krishna gave another body to Parikshit Maharaj. Next two verses are pretty straightforward. Mother Jija, if you want to read 18-19 translations.
Text 18. The Supreme induced the son of Dharma to perform this, constantly following Krishna, the personality of Godhead, protected and enjoyed the earth, assisted by the younger brothers. Hare Krishna.
19 also.
Text 19. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. Hare Krishna.
Straightforward verses, there's nothing to discuss. Gopal Prabhu, if you want to read verse 20 and translation plus purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 20. He was there in his transcendental body, the residence of the goddess of fortune, with his usual gentle and sweetly smiling face, his nectarian words, and his flawless character. Purport. In the previous verse, it is described that Lord Krishna, being situated in the truths of Sankhya philosophy, is detached from all kinds of matter. In the present verse, it is described that he is the residence of the goddess of fortune. These two things are not at all contradictory. Lord Krishna is detached from the variegatedness of the inferior nature, but he is in eternal blissful enjoyment of the spiritual nature or his internal potency. One who has a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand this distinction because the external and internal potencies. In Bhagavad Gita, the internal potency is described as the para prakriti. In the Vishnu Purana also, the internal potency of Vishnu is described as Parashakti. The Lord is never detached from the association of Parashakti. This Parashakti and her manifestations are described in the Brahma Samhita 5.37 as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabiha. The Lord is eternally joyful and cognizant in the taste derived from such transcendental bliss. Negation of the variegatedness of the inferior energy does not necessitate negation of the positive transcendental bliss of the spiritual world. Therefore, the Lord's gentleness, his smile, his character, and everything related to him are all transcendental. Such manifestations of the internal potency are the reality of which the material shadow is only a temporary representation from which everyone with proper knowledge must be detached. Hare Krishna.
So in the previous verse number 19, it says that Krishna is detached from matter. And here in verse number 20, says that he is residence of the goddess of fortune, and may seem contradictory. And in the purport we just read, that Srila Prabhupada refutes the contradiction that the negation of variegatedness of the inferior material nature does not necessitate the negation of the positive transcendental bliss of the spiritual world. And that's what it's saying. Prabhupada says at the start of the purport that there are two things and they are not contradictory. That Lord Krishna is detached from the variegatedness of the inferior nature. So this is one point. The variegatedness of the inferior nature is what the Lord is detached from. And the second point, but he is eternal blissful enjoyment of the spiritual nature or his internal potency. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, if I understand, he is the residence of the goddess of fortune. Sorry. That means the other portion of him is goddess Lakshmi. So it is said as the residence of the goddess of fortune. Could you please elaborate?
Yeah, it's not the other portion. It's just that the goddess of fortune resides on the chest of the Lord. That's what the real meaning is. I think somewhere it does describe. Let me check. It should be somewhere close by to what we are reading. It does describe somewhere. So we'll describe. We'll read somewhere. I just don't remember the verse right now. That there is a Kastuba jewel on Krishna's chest, as well as the goddess of fortune resides on the chest of the Lord. Yeah, so that discussion is actually in the same verse number 19 and 20. It's not there in the purport, but I have heard from my Siksha Gurus, those who are in disciplic succession, that's what they have said, that Krishna's chant has the Srivastava symbol, and goddess of fortune is eternally residing in Krishna's chest. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, can you please explain this again? Negation of the variegatedness of the inferior energy does not necessitate negation of positive transcendental bliss in the spiritual world. The transcendental bliss, that I have understood, Prabhu, but what is this first part?
Yeah, so if you go back to the purport at the start of the purport, 2 lines down, if you want to read, Shali, if you want to read, these two things are not at all contrary. If you want to read that line and the next one.
Yes, Prabhu.
You can read from the start for 3-4 lines.
Okay, Prabhu. In the previous verse, it is described that Lord Krishna, being situated in the truths of Sankhya philosophy, is detached from all kinds of matter. In the present verse, it is described that he is the residence of the goddess of fortune. These two things are not contradictory. Lord Krishna is detached from the variegatedness of the inferior nature, but he is eternal, blissful enjoyment of the spiritual nature or his internal potency. One who has
So your question about what is this variegatedness of inferior nature? If you look through in the material world, everybody wants something or the other new thing to enjoy. Why? Because they are attached to wanting to enjoy the modes of the material nature differently every day. But Lord is not attached to that variegatedness of the inferior nature. Rather, the second part, Lord is always blissful in enjoying the spiritual nature or his internal potency. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. I completely understood. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody on the same page? Okay. Next 3 verses are pretty straightforward. Uncle, if you want to read verse number 21, 22, 23 translations.
Text 21. The Lord enjoyed his pastimes, both in this world and in other worlds, within bracket higher planets, specifically in the association of the Yadu dynasty. At leisure hours offered by night, he enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love with women. Text 22. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. Text 23. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada explains in one of the purports that how through bhakti yoga only one can understand Krishna. One cannot understand Krishna's activities if he is not a pure devotee. There are many verses in Bhagavad Gita also that explain the same point, that only through bhakti yoga one can understand the transcendental nature and activities of Krishna's pastimes. Conditioned souls with limited senses, they cannot understand how Krishna can eat with his other senses, how Krishna's senses are interchangeable. Why? Because conditioned souls have limited senses. The next verses are part 4. So verses 24 to 28 is part 4. Title is Events Leading to Annihilation of the Yadus. Mother Chandra Aunty, if you want to read verse 24 translation.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. 24. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of Yadu and Bhoja dynasties, and thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. 25. A few months passed, and
Hold on. 24, hold on. Let's first discuss 24. 24 is an important verse. So we have already discussed about the annihilation of Yadus. That actually these are magical performances. Prabhupada uses the word magical performances. So this Mausalya Leela pastime are by Krishna's internal potency. Mausalya Leela means the fighting activities. So just as Yadus are fighting, or just as Bhishma is shooting arrows, all these are fighting rasa, fighting pastime. These are Mausalya Leela. The Sanskrit word is Mausalya Leela. So these Mausalya Leela pastimes are by Krishna's internal potency. Otherwise, there is no chance for Krishna's Yadu dynasty getting intoxicated and fighting among themselves. We'll have more discussion on this in the upcoming chapter also. So Srila, here right now, and this discussion will continue. I'll briefly describe as it progresses. Here, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that Yadus fighting amongst themselves is also a show of pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. Although the Yadus are sons and grandsons of Krishna, still one has to be careful in dealing with Brahmana and great personalities. An example is that, say, someone is very close to a spiritual master and has authority of a certain kind, and they try to show off their authority saying, I am very close to spiritual master, therefore you will do what I will tell you to do. Well, that kind of mentality does not work. Just because here somebody is son of Krishna does not mean you have to deal with anyone and everyone inappropriately. Srila Prabhupada says in the last line of the purport that one should not commit an offense against devotee of the Lord. Even if one is a son or grandson of Krishna, still one is subject to the result of offenses. So here's the question in terms of what's the learning as to why this pastime happened. So what question is, what is the lesson that can be drawn from the cursing of the princess? And this is there directly from verse number 24. The answer is that associates of the Lord who were playing part of the princely descendants of Yadu and Bhoja dynasty, they were not ordinary living entities. It is not possible that they could offend any saintly man or sage, nor could the sages, who were all pure devotees of the Lord, be influenced to anger by the sporting activities of these princes born in the holy dynasty of Yadu and Bhoj. Rather, the Lord himself inspired for this magical performances. Understand, this Yadu and Bhoja dynasty, Krishna himself has appeared in this family. So the cursing of the princes was another magical pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. The princes were cursed in order that one may know that even the descendants of the Lord, who could not be vanquished by any act of material nature, were still subject to reactions of anger by great devotees of the Lord. Therefore, one should take great care and attention to not commit an offense at the feet of the devotee of the Lord. Questions, comments, realizations? Important learning point here. Okay.
This context, Prabhuji, Parikshit Maharaja was cursed in a similar situation for that purpose, correct?
Yeah, so Parikshit Maharaj's curse, which is also described in Canto 1, chapter 17-18, the curse was to teach us. So if you read 1.18.48, I think that's the verse reference, where it says that the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that they do not counter even if the devotees are mistreated, etc. Plus, this was Lord's plan to get Srimad Bhagavatam into this world. First is the learning is, so Lord always does or achieves multiple purposes with one task. First is to teach us what's the nature of a devotee. It's described that the devotee tolerates, does not counteract the curse. And the second purpose was to get Srimad Bhagavatam into this world. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Shalini will read verse number 25, and that will answer to Shalini's earlier question about the demigods and the Yadus in the same body.
Hare Krishna, text 25. A few months passed, and then, bewildered by Krishna, all the descendants of Vrishini, Bhoja, and Andhaka, who were incarnations of demigod, went to Prabhasa, while those who were eternal devotees of the Lord did not leave but remained in Dwarka. Yes.
So that should answer crystal clearly that incarnations of demigods which were within the body of Yadus, they went to Prabhasa, versus the eternal associates of the Lord who were there in the Yadus body, they stayed back in Dwarka, and it was the demigod portion that did the fighting amongst themselves, and the eternal associates of the Lord, they went back to Goloka Vrindavan directly from Dwarka. Shalini, does that help you, or is this the same verse you are referring to about incarnations of demigod?
Yes, Prabhu. Same one. Thank you.
And does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. It does.
Okay. So Krishna had also gone to Prabhashetra, and it is this place, Prabhashetra, is from where Krishna departed from this material world. Questions, comments, realizations? Okay. Verse number 26 as a long discussion for us. Uncle, if you want to read verse number 26 translation.
Hare Krishna. Translation, text number 26. After arriving there, all of them took bath, and with the water of this place of pilgrimage, they offered their respects to the forefathers, demigods, and great sages, and thus satisfied them. They gave cows to Brahmanas in royal charity.
So their behavior, character, and activities are exemplary, meaning the behavior, character, and activities of Yadus are exemplary. They went to pilgrimage, they took bath, they offer respects to demigods and forefathers, they gave charity. From all this, you can judge that there was no chance of getting intoxicated and killing each other. But all this Yadus fighting among themselves was Krishna's pastime, arranged by the internal potency of the Lord. So I want Uncle to read one statement. So in the first paragraph, the last statement, which says, a great devotee of the Lord in modern times. So this Narottam Das Thakur statement, we'll have a discussion. Can I read that from that line, a great devotee of the Lord?
The last line, Sri Narottama Das Thakur has sung like this: to visit holy places of pilgrimage in another bewilderment of the mind, because devotional service of the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection.
So visiting holy place of pilgrimage is bewilderment of mind. How do you understand this, Srila Prabhupada?
Confusion, is it?
Yeah, I will explain that. Srila Prabhupada has quoted this Narottam Das Thakur statement many places. For example, we discussed in previous chapters here in Canto 3 that even when Krishna was physically present here on earth, I mean, Krishna is always present, but at the time when he was visible also during the Kurukshetra time, still Vidura went to pilgrimage because of the insult of Duryodhana, and there also Srila Prabhupada quotes the same quote of Narottam Das Thakur. So how do you understand and how do you reconcile the two sides of the statement? The first side of the statement is that out of 64 activities of devotional service described in Nectar of Devotion, the 5 most potent items, among the 5 most potent items, visiting holy place is one of the important devotional activity. And visiting holy places and wanting to reside in holy places is actually characteristics of Bhava Bhakti. That that those in Bhava Bhakti would like to stay at the holy place where the pastimes of the Lord happen. So this is one side. And the other side is what Narottam Das Thakur is saying, that visiting holy places is bewilderment of the mind. So how do you reconcile? And Srila Prabhupada reconciles that materialistic people who are not devotees, they visit holy places thinking that the purpose of visit to holy place is just to take bath at the holy place. Of course, these materialistic people will get some pious credit from visiting and taking bath at holy places. But this visiting the holy place for taking bath is not the aim of visiting pilgrimage places. Rather, the purpose of visiting holy places is to take shelter of pure devotees who are reciting there and to patiently and humbly inquire from such pure devotees about the pastimes of the Lord that have happened at that particular place, and then attentively and faithfully hear from them. This is the main purpose of visiting to holy places. There's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, I don't have a reference of that verse right now. In that particular verse, Prabhupada, the translation says that people who go to holy place only to take bath are actually considered cows and asses. Plus, people visit holy place and commit offenses at the holy place towards the residents of the dham. For the demigods, demigods can see that the residents of the holy dham, whether it be Vrindavan, Dwarka, Mathura, the demigods can see that all these residents of the dham are actually four-handed forms. We cannot see, but demigods can actually see this. And then we have discussed multiple times about 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name. Therefore, one has to be very careful while visiting and residing in the dham. Hence, even to say when you visit the holy places, even the rickshaw driver, we have to be very careful. There's nothing wrong in negotiating the price that you're gonna pay to the rickshaw driver, but we have to maintain respect towards each and every living entity, even to the dog and monkey and different animals living in the dham, not just in the dham, everywhere we have to be respectful, but more so specifically in the dhams. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur is saying this statement. He says that stay at one place, wherever you are in the world, and perform the 5 most potent items of devotional services described in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 13. And hence there is no visit for you to visit the holy places. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur is making this statement that to visit holy places is another bewilderment of the mind, because the devotional service of the Lord can be performed at any place. So you stay at your place and perform the 5 most potent forms of devotional services from the 64 items of devotional service. Of course, this does not mean you don't have to visit holy places. You should. So if one is careful in following the principles, avoiding offenses, then there is no problem in visiting the holy places. I'll pause here for any questions, comments, realizations.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
As it's mentioned in the purport, for us who are not so advanced, it's mentioned that we have to perform prescribed duties of visiting pilgrimage sites and regularly performing the rituals.
Yeah.
So, Prabhu, for us, it is still recommended, right? If we could go, and of course, we have to go with the mood and we have to know what to do, but still it is recommended to go to pilgrimages, right, Prabhu?
Yeah, you are correct. So we have discussed this in Nectar of Instruction when we were discussing the last text. about Radha Kund. I've discussed that if you don't go to holy places with proper attitude, then the Radha Kund will soon become Narak Kund. So yes, we have to visit the holy places, but we have to first develop the proper mindset. Therefore, the last statement I said, that if one is careful in following all the principles, avoiding the offenses, then there is no problem in visiting the holy places. So when I say following the principles means that you go to holy places, not for sightseeing, not to swim in Radha Kund, not to do offenses, rather go to holy places to associate with pure devotees and to humbly and submissively hear from them, as well as serve these pure devotees in holy dham. Plus, of course, avoid offenses. That's the important point as well. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. I had one more question, Prabhu.
Mhm.
The next paragraph is saying, as a rule, every human being is indebted to God, the demigods, great sages, and other living entities, people in general, forefathers, etc., for various contributions received from them.
Yep.
So is it talking anything about the rituals which are traditionally being carried out for the demigods and the forefathers, Prabhu?
Yeah. So these 5 kinds of the rituals Prabhupada talks about in the last line, that we are all indebted to performing these 5 kinds of rituals, and they are listed in the last line. So other place it's also mentioned that if you do devotional service, then everything else is taken care of. So while you are in the process, these 5 kinds of yajna, we all are indebted to these 5 kinds of people. So it's described in the last line. I'll read the last line where it says, which Shalini just mentioned. Prabhupada says that as a rule, every human being is indebted to God, the demigods, the great sages, other living entities, people in general, forefathers, etc., for the various contributions received from them. So thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude. So that's what Prabhupada is explaining. That yes, we are indebted, and specifically for householders, it's important to perform yajna for these 5 yajnas, 5 kinds of yajna. But simultaneously, Prabhupada has also explained, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also explained, that when you become Krishna conscious, then you are past these rituals, because Krishna consciousness includes all these anyway. Shalini, very good inquiry. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu. But if we are not, I mean, for me personally, still, for me, it's Krishna is supreme, and I worship Krishna. So do I have to continue the rituals which the family have been doing, Prabhu? Or
Well,
not?
it's your choice. It is very good that you know Krishna as the supreme. So it's your choice what you want to do. If you are advanced, then Krishna consciousness already includes. If otherwise, there's no harm in doing these rituals as well. Understanding that you consider that, okay, I am still in the process. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations? Uncle, you got clarified. Seems confusing statement.
Yeah. The bewilderment
Hmm.
got clarified.
Okay. Mother Jija, verse 27 translation.
Text 27 translation. The Brahmanas were not only given well-fed cows in charity, but also gold coins, bedding, clothing, animal skin, seats, blankets, horses, elephants, girls, and sufficient land for maintenance. Hare Krishna.
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that when Brahmana becomes easygoing by being fed by the society, hence the Brahmana becomes Brahmana Bandhu. Brahmana Bandhu is not a negative term, meaning it just explains that this particular person is not qualified as a Brahmana. He is a relative of Brahmana, but that relation does not itself make him qualified as a Brahmana. I've discussed this at great length in Bhagavad Gita 4.13 and 18.41, that Krishna divided the society in 4 categories by guna, karma, vibhagasa. One is a Brahmana by his guna and karma. And the same applies for Kshatriya also, that Kshatriya Bandhu, that somebody is a friend or a relative of a Kshatriya. By itself, he does not become a Kshatriya. If he is not able to qualify himself as a Kshatriya, then he is also called as Kshatriya Bandhu, just as the relative of Brahmana is called as Brahmana Bandhu. Gopal Prabhu, last verse for chapter 3, translation.
Hare Krishna, text 28, translation. Thereafter, they offered the Brahmanas highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead, and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmanas. Hare Krishna.
Okay, straightforward verses that they distributed prasadam to Brahmana. So they are referring to the Yadus. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Lord's Pastimes out of Vrindavan. Questions, comments, realizations before we start chapter 4?
Prabhuji, why the girls were given as dana?
Where are you reading it?
Page
Page, tell me the words.
text 27. It was arranged for some of the Brahmanas who were in difficulty for marriage to be given girls.
So you know back then that when the girl gets married, the maid of the house also goes there. So they are going there as helpers, because Brahmanas are fully engaged in devotional activities, in rituals, etc. Therefore, they are going as helpers. Plus, if you read the line through, it actually says that for Brahmana, it's difficult to get married. No one will give their daughter to the Brahmanas. So here they are giving girls in marriage also, so that the girls can take care of the Brahmanas also for the household needs as well. It's not like what goes on now, that girls are sold to some rich person. Here it's more on the devotional angle. Does that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
So, Prabhuji, following this, the 3 principles of existence of life, protecting cows, following Brahminical culture, and devotional service is followed, correct?
No, I don't follow your question or statement. What are you asking?
So in this text of 28,
Yeah.
what we read, do I understand that these 3 principles, this is one of the principles, isn't it, among the 3? The one is protecting cows, follow the Brahminical culture and devotional service to the Lord.
Yeah, so you are correct. The last line in the purport says that the Yadus, they lived perfectly by protecting the cows and brahmanas. So if you recall our discussion, I think it is somewhere in Canto 1, probably in Canto 1. Don't remember the reference. We have discussed these two principles, cow protection and brahmana protection. This is very important and this is very dear to Krishna. So if you want to become dear to Krishna, then cow protection and brahmana protection, or serving the brahmanas as well as the cows, is how you become dear to Krishna. Does that help you?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So we'll start chapter 4. Canto 3, chapter 4 is titled Vidura Approaches Maitreya Muni. Chapter 4 is divided into 7 parts. Part 1 is verses 1 to 3. Title is Disappearance of Yadus. Part 2 is verses 4 to 13. Lord Krishna met Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi. We will try to complete up to verse 13 today, these first 2 parts. Part 3 is verses 14 to 18. Overwhelmed Uddhava glorified and prayed to the Lord. Part 4, verses 19 to 22. Hearing from the Lord, Uddhava started for Badrika Ashram. Part 5, verses 23 to 27. Vidura sought spiritual knowledge from Uddhava. Part 6, verses 28 to 32. Uddhava's special role after disappearance of the Lord. Part 7, verses 33 to 36. Vidura's enlightenment by Uddhava and further journey. So part 1 is verses 1 to 3 is about the disappearance of Yadus. We already discussed that in the previous chapter, few verses, and it's a little continuation of that. Aditi or Sridhar Prabhu, are you able to read chapter 4, verse 1 translation? And Uddhava is speaking this verse.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm traveling Prabhu, will not be able to in a position to read Prabhu. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
that's okay, don't be sorry. Mother Chandra Aunty, verse 1 translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Chapter 4, text 1. Thereafter, all of them, the descendant of Rishi and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasada and also drank liquor made of rice By drinking, they all became delirious and bereft of knowledge. They touched the core of each other's heart with harsh words. Hare Krishna.
So in this first verse, there's this word tad anugyata. We'll discuss this in the upcoming verse. Tad anugyata means by permission of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada actually mentions that drinking is harmful, that even high family will get impacted and anything can happen. So this is the learning for us. I already described when we were discussing this before, that the learning for us is that don't drink, don't become angry. Shalini, if you want to read verse number 2, translation and the short purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 2. Translation. As by the friction of bamboos, destruction takes place, so also at sunset, by the interaction of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place. Purport. When there is need of fire in the forest, by the will of Supreme, it takes place due to friction among the bamboos. Similarly, the descendants of the Yadu were all destroyed by the will of the Lord, by the process of self-destruction. Just as there is no possibility of a fires occurring deep in the forest due to human effort, so also there was no power of the universe which would vanquish the descendants of Yadu, who were protected by the Lord. The Lord wanted them to be so destroyed, and thus they obeyed his order, as indicated by the word tad anujita.
Tad anugyata. So that's the word that comes from verse number 1. So we every morning we sing this prayer, Samsara Davalana prayer, that the forest fire happens. And actually this happens by the will of Krishna. Ordinary people do not understand how suddenly there is fire or there is fight. How does this happen? In the purport that we just read, the word tad anugyata from 3.4.1 first line is important word. Tad anugyata means obeying or following the order of Krishna. So Lord wanted all the Yadus to be destroyed. Therefore, the Yadus actually followed Krishna's order. Yadus already knew that Krishna wants them to fight. Therefore, Yadus simply played the role in Lord's drama. Therefore, in the previous discussion, we discussed the magical performance. So this is the drama or the magical performance of the Lord. And the Yadus are simply playing a part or a role in that drama. Therefore, the Yadus followed Krishna's orders because they are devotees. And as devotees, they wanted to cooperate with the desires of the Lord. And Vishwanath Chakravarti adds that this tad anugyata actually means that Yadus actually took permission from Krishna to drink liquor for this drama. So it's a magical performance or a drama, and the part, meaning the role played by Yadus, requires them to drink liquor, and therefore they first took permission from Krishna to drink liquor, and then they followed the fighting magical performance. Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhu.
Mother Jija, verse number 3 translation.
Text 3. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family, by his internal potency, went to the bank of the river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna knows very well that through his internal potency, the Yadus will destroy each other. Therefore, Yadus did not die under intoxication. And this is actually a magical performance or a drama of the Lord, is why they seemingly got intoxicated and fought with each other. Verse number 4 onwards is part 2. Verses 4 to 13 is part 2. Title is Lord Krishna met Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi. Gopal Prabhu, verse 4 translation.
Hare Krishna. The Lord is the vanquisher of the distress of one who is surrendered unto him. Thus, he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badrikashram.
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 So Uddhava says that Lord is vanquisher of distresses for one who is surrendered to him. So Uddhava is definitely a surrendered pure devotee. Krishna ordered Uddhava to go to Badrika Ashram for 2 reasons. First, to take association from Nar and Narayan rishis so that Uddhava will not feel the pain of separation from the Lord. Plus, the second reason is that at Badrika Ashram, any curses have no effect. Does not mean you will do something wrong and then go to Badrika Ashram. But it's just that there is the curses have no effect at Badrika Ashram. Uncle, if you want to read verse number 5 translation.
Text number 5. Yet, in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Arindama Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of the Master.
Even though Krishna told Uddhava to not go to Prabhashetra and instead go to Badrika Ashram, Uddhava did not follow Krishna's order. Rather, Uddhava followed Krishna and went to Prabhashetra as well, because for all devotees it is very difficult to even discuss or think about separation from the Lord. In the next few verses, there is this discussion about banyan tree. We have discussed the banyan tree in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 as the upside down reflection of the spiritual world. And there's an important point explained in here, so we'll read and discuss that. Mother Chandra Aunty, if you want to read verse number 6 translation.
Text 6. Thus following, I saw my patron and master, Lord Sri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati. Along, he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. Hare Krishna.
Uddhava took shelter of Krishna. Uddhava recognized that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead because Uddhava could see Krishna in his four-handed form. Although Krishna is shelter of everyone and everything, still Krishna took shelter of a banyan tree, just as sannyasis take shelter under a tree. Krishna is thus renounced also. Shalini, verses 7 and 8 translations.
Hare Krishna, text 7. The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his 4 hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments. Text 8. The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and Although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. Hare Krishna.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti adds commentary that how Lord's sitting posture also has deep meaning. Whether the Lord does something, whether the Lord is walking or sitting, everything has a meaning. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, I think it's verse number 3 and 4, Krishna has said that this banyan tree is reflected as the upside down reflection of the spiritual world. And one should cut this tree with the weapon of detachment. So there's an analogy point from this 3.4.8 verse. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe where we reside is the smallest of all universes, hence the banyan tree is designated as small or as a child. So this is the analogy. This is the statement which is explaining a particular analogy, and the analogy to points are that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the Lord's sitting posture, keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree, is also very meaningful. The banyan tree does not die very quickly. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of the external potency and are therefore kept to the Lord's back, because this particular universe is the smallest of all universes. Hence, the banyan tree is designated as small or as a child. The Lord was now prepared to leave this particular universe and go into another universe, just as the sun rises on one particular planet and sets in another place simultaneously. But that does not mean that the sun changes its own position. So in terms of our universe being the smallest, I've described that the Brahmaji of our universe has 4 heads, and this is the smallest count of heads for all the different Brahmajis that are there in different universes. There are Brahmajis with 100 head, 1,000 head, 100,000 heads, a million heads. Our Brahmaji has only 4 heads because our universe is the smallest and the least complex universe compared to others. Questions, comments, realizations? Okay. Gopal Prabhu, verse number 9, translation.
Hare Krishna, text 9. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dvaipanya Vyasa, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord. Hare Krishna.
We'll read the purport very soon, and as is explained in the purport, that Maitreya Muni is a disciple of Parashar Muni. Parashar Muni is the father of Vyasadeva, and Maitreya Muni and Srila Vyasadeva are friends and mutual well-wishers of everyone. So at this particular point in time, Maitreya Muni is not a pure devotee. Maitreya Muni is a mixed devotee, and Maitreya Muni is more focused on philosophical speculation of the Lord. Maitreya Muni is not interested in performing pure devotional service to the Lord. And in the purport, the word Agyat Sukruti is described means accidental or unknowing or its own accord devotional service. Therefore, because of Agyat Sukruti, Maitreya Muni reached to where Krishna and Uddhava were talking by because of some unknown devotional service is why Maitreya Muni reached there. Krishna spoke to Uddhava and Maitreya Muni simultaneously. But this conversation is known as Uddhava Gita. It is not known as Maitreya Gita, or it is not known as Uddhava and Maitreya Gita. No, it is only known as Uddhava Gita because Krishna wants to speak this supreme secret to his pure devotee Uddhava. And Maitreya Muni happened to be there due to Agyat Sukruti. Of course, after hearing directly from the Lord, Maitreya Muni also goes on to become a pure devotee. And this Uddhava Gita is part of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's there in Canto 11. And Uddhava Gita is more expanded version of Bhagavad Gita. We'll also discuss in later verses that the Bhagavatam that Krishna spoke to Brahmaji and what Krishna spoke to Uddhava as Uddhava Gita is more advanced than the Bhagavatam that Krishna spoke to Brahmaji. Gopal Prabhu is trying to read verse number 9 purport.
Hare Krishna. Purport. Maitreya was one of the disciples of Maharishi Parashara, the father of Vyasadeva. Thus Vyasadeva and Maitreya were friends and mutual well-wishers. By some fortunate accident, Maitreya reached the place where Lord Sri Krishna was resting. To meet the Lord is not an ordinary incident. Maitreya was a great sage and a learned scholar philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore, his meeting with the Lord at that time may have been due to Agyana Sukruti or some unknown devotional service. Pure devotees always engage in pure devotional activities, and therefore their meeting with the Lord is natural. But when those who are not up to that standard meet the Lord, it is due to the unforeseen fortune of accidental devotional service. Hare Krishna.
So, pure devotees meeting the Lord is natural. But others who are meeting the Lord is accidental due to Agyat Sukruti. Mother Jija, verse number 10 translation.
Text 10. Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest. The Lord spoke as follows. Hare Krishna.
So Maitreya Muni is also attached to the Lord, but he is a Jnana Bhakta. Although Maitreya Muni is a devotee, still Maitreya Muni's devotion was mixed. Is Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Because of his philosophical speculation portion being more. And then Srila Prabhupada explains about gopis, that gopis are neither learned nor mystic yogis, but gopis have spontaneous love towards Krishna. And in the purport, the last line, Prabhupada explains that Krishna's attitude was more intimate towards Uddhava than to Maitreya Muni. The last three verses are pretty straightforward. Uncle, if you want to read verse number 11 translation.
Hare Krishna. Translation, text 11. O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desire to achieve my association. This is very difficult for others to obtain, but I avoid into you.
So clearly explained by Prabhupada that Uddhava is Nitya Siddha, meaning eternally perfected. And Uddhava is one of the 8 Vasus as well. Mother Chandranti will read verse number 12. Translation is also straightforward verse.
Hare Krishna, text 1. O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikunta, by leaving this universe of conditioned living entity. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you. Hare Krishna.
Straightforward that Krishna is saying that this is the last life for you, Uddhava. Shalini, last verse for today, 13.
Hare Krishna, text 13. O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke to Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sage described as Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Pretty straightforward. Again, that Krishna is just referring to what Krishna spoke to Brahmaji, which is known as Srimad Bhagavatam, which is what we are reading. And that Uddhava Gita is more advanced than what Krishna spoke to Brahmaji as the Srimad Bhagavatam. Questions, comments, realizations before I give you homework? Okay, 2 homework questions. What lesson can be drawn from cursing of the princess? Comes from chapter 3, verse number 24. Second is an analogy. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe is the smallest of all, hence the banyan tree is designated as small or as a child. This comes from chapter 4, verse number 7 and 8. The last is, you might have already read chapter 4. If not, finish reading chapter 4. Any questions, comments, realizations? We are dot at 9:30 time here in Toronto.
Would you please repeat second question from second line by the banyan tree or products from that?
I will repeat the whole second question. It's an analogy. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe is the smallest of all, hence the banyan tree is designated as small or as a child.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
It's from chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. Are we okay to stop here?
So,
Yes, please.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.